do that kind of a problem applied-wise? Well, your question on your exam about the solar eyebrow is this situation, and you'll get to that when you look at the exam, which that's plenty of time. The idea of this one is, if you need to measure something, and you're outside and you have access to a tape measure, you can use the sun to help you. And here's how you would do that. What you do is, you have to have some kind of a measuring device, like a stick. I carried a stick to class last time. It's one of those 8-foot guys that telescopes up to big 8 feet. So I would know how big this piece was. What I would do is, I'd stick it on the ground. And this stick, I would know the length of. We'll color it red. And because of the sun being in the sky, it would cast a shadow. It would cast a shadow like that. Now, if you knew how big this was, whether you could measure it with a tape or you could know it was 8 feet long like my stick is, you could also measure this with a measuring tape. Slap it down really quickly. So suppose the stick was 4 feet tall and the ground was 11 feet long. The shadow was 11 feet long on the ground. Fair enough so far? You would know those two numbers. Now, generally speaking, I'm going to change this for the purposes of my explanation. This wouldn't be the unknown. Generally speaking, this would up here, because it would be too tall for you to go up and measure. So it would be something like a tree, or a building, or a bridge, or a mountain, or something very, very large that you couldn't, or you didn't want to get to the top of with your GPS. Okay, the more clever of you might bring a bow and arrow and tie a cell phone and loop it up. I mean, there's ways around it, of course. There's ways around it. But if you don't feel like dealing with that stuff. So you don't know how tall the thing is. Let's call it a tree for the sake of an argument. And it's a big ponderosa or juniper. You don't feel like climbing them because they're full of pokey things. So the thing is, at the same time, the sun is going to be at the same angle in the sky up there, isn't it? See, that's the kicker. The angle that the sun forms with the ground is going to be the same in both of these triangles, thereby giving you similar triangles. That's why Jerry's little dot is so important. That angle is the same. If you hold the stick at 90 degrees, you can assume the tree's growing at 90 degrees. That's a fair assumption, right? That's a fair assumption. Which means the tree is also going to cast a shadow. And now you got similar triangles. Now you can figure out how big the tree, or the mountain, or the building, or whatever else you have to measure is. There you go. That's it. That was the application of that, which not enough sun equals not enough shadow, equals too early in the day, equals the sun's not over the mountain yet, or the trees yet, so we're inside. But that's what I was going to have you go outside and do. It comes in real handy when you're out there and you need to get a measurement like that. This is how they mapped India. This is how I had my Trig 112 students figure out how big Mount Hood was without ever getting near Mount Hood with a GPS. It's all based on that right there. Pretty rad. Now, it does get interesting as the things get really big, because I made an assumption right here that this side of the triangle was what? Flat. See, if you get too big, we're on Earth, right? You get too big, this starts looking like that. But that's where you take Math 112, and you learn how to deal with curvature. You don't have to take Math 112. If anybody's interested, I can send you the project. I had Math 112 too. You can look at it at your own free time. Or if you ever have trouble falling asleep at night, you can just read through that. I'll probably knock you right out. But that's the idea. Is at its core, that's the application of similar triangles. How to measure something without having to actually get up and drop a tape measure, although we sounded like we wanted to do that last week. Fair enough? It's kind of fun. Fair enough? So that's that application. How are we doing so far? We okay? That was the point.